Good morning. We are back at it. I'm hoping today's stream doesn't have as many disconnects as yesterday's. Yesterday's, for whatever reason, I ran into a few more technical difficulties than I had expected. But maybe the stream gods will smile favorably upon us this morning. My desk is kind of cattywampus. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. Hey, Noob, how are you, man? Good morning. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, I was trying to fix my desk. There we go. Don't complain about your desk. Yeah, I like my desk. Yeah, I'm glad I finally got one. For the last year or so, I've been working off a really small, tiny kid's desk. And then before we moved to this new place, I finally bit the bullet and bought a proper desk. It's not anything expensive. It was like $60, but I'm just super cheap when it comes to stuff like that, you know. My thing with spending money as a dad is I always hate to spend money on myself because I know that I have three other people in my life who are also going to need things. And so it's like, well, if I spend my money on myself, then that like causes everything to be doubly expensive because then or triply expensive because then my kids are going to need it, then my wife's going to need something, you know. Which I don't know. That's good sometimes, but then other times it leads me to put up with things that I probably shouldn't put up with unnecessarily, like not having a desk. um, but yeah, the next thing I want to get for my office is actually a chair. So if anybody has like good chair recommendations, I would love to hear from you. A lot of guys I work with, a lot of the developers I work with have really nice chairs. And ever since I've gotten hired there, they've all told me like, "Man, you got to do it. You got to invest in a good chair. If you spend 40 hours a week in a chair, you know." I always laugh and tell them because this chair that I sit in normally, I don't know if you guys can really see it. This chair right here. This chair has a really funny story. So, at my last job, um, when I was a food scientist, busy slim. So long as you don't skip on coffee, I don't I don't skip on coffee. That's for sure. Um, yeah, that's for sure. Actually, I shared. I think I shared this in Discord, but I don't think I shared this on stream. Um, Let me see if I can find it real quick. So you guys know that I've talked about Advent of Code on the channel and how I'm really excited for Advent of Code and I really enjoy doing that every year. Well, one of my favorite coffee shops, they're actually based out in Northwest Arkansas, named Onyx Coffee. They put together an Advent calendar every year. And the last like 3 years, I've told myself like, man, I want to get this thing. So this last week, it was a little pricey. It's like $190, but they basically send you 24 unique coffees, right? So you get 24 unique um, origins and roasts. So my plan is in the month of December, I'm gonna brew my coffee and then I'm gonna go sit down and solve a coding problem. So the first 24 days of December are gonna be very, very exciting. Coffee and code. It's gonna be awesome. Oh, the chair story. So story time, everyone. The last job I had, I worked as a food scientist. It was awesome. I got to be, I got to participate in a brand new plant, right? So we built a manufacturing plant from the ground up. It was really cool to be a part of. And we got to transfer products in from older plants into the newer plants and do startups and train employees. It was really cool. But at our old plant where our offices were, they basically just gutted our office and was like, "Hey, if you want any of this, if you want any of this office furniture, just take it." And one of the things I took was this chair, and I've had it ever since. But I do need to invest in a nicer one. All right. Well, I think we're gonna go back to working on Casper. We were kind of all over the place yesterday, but I think we're gonna try to make a. I think we're gonna try to make a push on Casper and see if we can't get him to a POC state. We're not far from it. We basically just have the only thing left we have to do is basically create our Critic agent. So we just need to write one more prompt. And then obviously we have some like testing and evaluation and things like that. But if we get that last prompt wired together, we should be pretty good. I also was working on this last night a little bit. You guys ever have the... Hey, what's up, Wilo Gamer Pro? Do you guys ever have those moments when you're working on a project and you're looking at the code and you think to yourself, why in the hell did I do it like that? And I had a big moment like that last night. And so I think there's probably like a re-architecture, or at least maybe not a re-architecture, but a refactor that I'm going to do on this app that I'll probably try to say. I'll probably try to save you guys from sitting there watching me move code around too much. So I'm going to resist refactoring it now, and I'm just going to kind of get it to POC. But there is definitely some work that I'd like to do. It's not bad the way it is now, but I was just like, why did I do that? Good to see you, Wilo Gamer Pro. Appreciate you, man. Alright, for some reason I'm logged out of Discord. Oh, I did last night. One of the things I did work on, just so you guys are aware, because I know how much you guys care about this, is I did end up implementing the, what do you call it, the secondary handle method. So you know how like in my architect or my workflow diagram, let me see if I can pull it up here. So in my workflow diagram, Casper, yeah, this guy. Remember how I was saying that like the editor and the agent can go back and forth, right? So the editor actually needs to be able to have like different, it needs to have like different system instructions. One system instruction is when it does the initial draft, and one system instruction does the revision, right? So it's like initial draft, editor reads it, editor gives feedback, and so then I need to prompt the writer differently. I did implement that. So we have that message here, or that method, not message, method here. So that's wired up now. So we do have a way to go back and forth between editor and writer. There's definitely, I need to make sure that that doesn't end up in an infinite loop where like the editor and writer just keep going back and forth. So there's probably some sort of like escape hatch where I need to say, hey, only allow so many edits or so many revisions. And then, so that's done. So now what we need to do is, this is the last one we need to implement, is this guy. We just need to implement this guy, and then we should basically have every bit of this workflow done. Although I need to update this because there's another agent here. There's an interviewer here now. And then this isn't really accurate because we actually go writer, editor, editor, writer, writer, editor, editor, critic, critic, back to the writer. So there's actually, these two things can loop directly, and these two things can loop directly. No, the critic and the writer can't loop directly. The critic and the writer always have to go through. If the critic sends it back to the writer and the writer makes changes, the writer first has to go back to the editor. So yeah, update diagram. That's on the to-do list. Okay, so in any event, let's go over to our critic, and we need to start implementing this guy. Yeah. Good morning, Suhas. Hey, Stefan, our illustrious YouTube member. Wilo Gamer, that is such a relatable feeling. You mean the feeling where like you want to refactor all the code you've written for the last 2 weeks? Well, that's good to know. Cops and robbers resemble each other, so there's not a lot to learn in terms of learning the logistics of committing the crime or investigating the crime. What? Hold on, what are you talking about? I see you're using Zen browser. How do you like it? Oh, yeah. Were you the one that recommended it to me, Suhas? Also, did I miss a message or something? Can you seat? Did got block? What? I must have missed something. In any event, this is the Zen browser. I can't remember. Somebody on stream recommended it to me, and I've fallen in love with it. And it's funny because it's... yeah, I switched yesterday. Or yesterday was my first full day of using it. Finally, yeah. I mean, I still like Edge. Oh my goodness, Stefan. I still like Edge. I do. I still like Edge. Here's what sold me on the Zen browser thing. Is I love like right now, you know how we're looking at the browser on the screen right now? I like how minimal it looks, right? There's another browser that I really like called the Min browser. I don't think I have it on this machine. It's me. Okay, yeah. Awesome, yeah. So thank you, Suas, for recommending it, because I had not heard of it till you guys brought it up on stream, so I appreciate you. This was the browser that I originally had tried to use instead of Edge. And this browser is aesthetically is exactly what I want for my browser. Like just like almost blends into the background. Like you don't even know, like you don't know it's there. The only problem with this browser is there are some services that you kind of have to hack your way to by modifying the user agent in the browser. Like if you try to use Min to sign into like Google services, it won't let you unless you change the user agent. So that's kind of feels hacky. So I didn't actually end up using this for very long. But this Zen browser kind of almost recreates that same minimalistic experience, and it's really easy to swap the sidebar in and out, which I like. So I can have it there. I cannot see it, right? I love the address bar. So the address bar looks like a search bar, like that. I love that experience. There is Microsoft garbage. Well, I'm kind of a Microsoft fanboy over here, right? I write C#. I use Windows. I like PowerShell. Good morning, Gun. Good to see you, man. Use unhook extension. Now try Linux. I like Linux. The thing is, I like Linux. I just haven't used it as a daily driver before. But I like Linux. I know it's silly though that the fact that the reason I'm picking certain browsers is because I like vertical tabs and I don't want to see my navigation bars. I know that's really stupid, like kind of stupid reasons to pick a browser, but that's kind of those are the reasons. um, use unhook and uBlock, huh? Unhook. Would you mind? Oh, there's unhook. Remove YouTube recommended videos and more. Watch YouTube free of distractions. Block suggestion feeds. But I kind of like my suggestion feeds and comments. How will I discover what to watch next? Microsoft sucks, but I like it too. They jailed us within their ecosystem. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't have the same. I don't have the same evil empire feeling towards Microsoft myself. Personally, I know a lot of people do. I just don't. I haven't had negative experience with. I mean, I had a negative experience with Windows 8, but other than that, I haven't had bad experiences with Windows products myself. The other thing about Microsoft that I love is I absolutely love the developer division at Microsoft. I think the developer division at Microsoft might be one of the most singularly gifted assemblies of individual developer talent in the history of the world, right? I mean, it's just the number of smart people who are there working on developer related products and toolings is unbelievable. Creroy said hi. Hello, Creroy. How are you doing? Like, I think people don't realize all the people who actually work at Microsoft, right? The distinguished engineers, the technical fellows that work in the dev division there, or work across the company in different divisions. I don't think people realize. So it's not a bad experience. Stephanie brought this up before. It's not a bad experience for you that you literally have so much bloat that you can play video games in the OS installer. I mean, I don't. How many times do I encounter the OS installer? I don't install Windows like every other day. You know what I mean? I see the installer once when I set up the machine, and never again. I mean, like I said, I'm sure there are like legitimately good and bad reasons to hate or not hate it. It's just I don't know. I don't carry any animosity around with me towards Microsoft. If you want to really experience Linux, just give Omarchi a try. It's polished, but still keeps the Linux in there. That's what I do want to try. That project that DHH is putting together looks awesome. I mean, he's not putting it together. He has put it together. This is the thing Stefan's talking about. I'm sure a lot of you already know about it, but so this is a project that DHH and is largely leading the charge on, but basically it's like a really nice polished experience on top of, I think they're using Arch Linux as the distro. Rama Chitan. Hello, good to see you, Rama Chitan. It's not a bad experience for you to have their AI shoved in your throat that collects your data and you have no say. I think that could be said as a bad experience. Although, I turn off all the Copilot stuff. Now, if they're still collecting my data behind the scenes, but then again, everyone's collecting my data behind the scenes. That is, I think data privacy is a war we lost long ago. Because they know best. Well, yeah, that's the world, man. That's the world. For mo for the most part, this is gonna sound really dystopian and really what's the word? This is gonna sound very fatalistic. But most of us are just economic slaves to one extent or the other. It's a spectrum. Some of us are legitimately economic slaves. Some of us just have debt. But even if you're debt free, you're basically most of the things you do in your life are animated by the fact that you need a paycheck. You know, if you did if you didn't need a paycheck, you'd probably live your life a lot differently. On a more positive note, hey, actually, do you guys mind if I'm gonna set up I've been working on migrating all my external hard drives to my NAS. I am two down. I am two to go, so I'm gonna start the next transfer right quick. So it'll take me like 5 minutes. I'm just gonna be on the other side of my monitor, but just give me one sec. I should probably put up a "be right back" thing, shouldn't I was sitting here looking at my other computer and realized the transfer that had been running is done. Splits up. Be right back. Starting another transfer to my NAS. This has actually been going relatively much quicker than I thought it would. Relatively quick. It's taking 24 hours, but let's see. All right, hold on to your horses. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. It's actually kind of surprising how loud my NAS is. I actually thought something was wrong with it, so I have a family member who's an IT guy, a hardware guy, one of those people that still interface with the real world physical objects. And I was like, "Hey man, I just bought this NAS and got it all set up." I was like, "Does this sound normal to you, or is there something wrong with these discs?" And he was like, "No." He was like, That's what enterprise grade hard drives look like when they're being accessed, or not look like, sound like when they're being accessed. I was like, okay, good deal. Let's see. Hope you have a good rate on it, but remember they say you should have a backup also of that NAS too. So it's funny you say that. So this is something I've been. I'm gonna go off script here for a couple minutes, and I'm guessing there's maybe some people in chat who can maybe enlighten my thinking a little bit on this. So this is basically what I have going on with my NAS right now. So my NAS has right now it's a 4-bay NAS, and right now I've only bought 2 drives for it. Excuse me. If I could actually figure out how to use Excalidraw, this would be great. So it's a 4-bay NAS. I currently have a 20 terabyte drive here and a 20 terabyte drive here, and these are mirrors of each other. I'm gonna put another 20 and another 20 here in another VDEV because I'm using TrueNAS. So when you're working in TrueNAS and you have a mirrored RAID system happening, you can only add drives in pairs. So right now I have 20 usable terabytes of storage because obviously one of these drives is just a mirror of the other. However, it's kind of funny when you start following all this logic, kind of what you said, Busy Slim, where, okay, I have redundancy between these 2 drives, right? So if one drive fails, I still have all my data. But then to your point, people are like, okay, well, the RAID is not, enough for backup, right? So it's like, okay, so are you telling me I need to go buy another NAS and stick that in my parents' house or like a family member's house and then duplicate all of this over there? Is that really what people do? Because that's just not cost effective at all for most people, right? Like I think up here, this alone was, I think all in, once I factored in everything I bought, I think I'm close to $2,000 on this NAS. It was like $500 for the pre-built NAS, $600 for each of the $600 or $700 for the 2 20 terabyte things. Then I bought 2 NVMe SSDs for the NAS. So I'm like almost close to, maybe it's more like $1,500. Yeah, it's mirrored. Yeah, it's definitely mirrored. It's a I think RAID 1 is what you call it, but it's a mirror. But if if the RAID isn't enough of a backup for you, then what you're saying is you need to have 2 of these systems. Yeah, I've heard exactly. So I'm glad other people had that same reaction of like, okay, you're gonna buy a NAS, but no, you can't just buy one. So like you can't just buy one drive. You got to buy 2 drives because you got to mirror them. And then okay, you can't just have one NAS. You got to have 2 NASs. So this has been my thinking though, to be a responsible person with my data is. What I did on the NAS is I set up a folder that is backed up to my Google Drive. And that folder is basically where I'll put anything that lives on the NAS that is deemed of mission critical importance, right? So that's basically going to be my backup strategy for the NAS. Granted, obviously my Google Drive can't handle most of this data that's in here, right? So I'm just kind of accepting that if both drives were to fail at the same time, I'm foobarred. And then my other plan is if there's a fire, I'm just gonna grab my NAS and run out the building with it. That's my backup plan. Assuming I'm in the house when the fire happens. I'm just accepting the fact that I'm not gonna spend I'm not gonna drop $1,500 this year on a NAS and then need to double that so that I have both, that I have this NAS backed up to another NAS. Maybe in the future I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that, but right now I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to do it. So call me irresponsible, but that's where I'm at. So I'll say, Steven, want an ad blocker and YouTube speed control, which 2x plus playback. I want you to try it. I love it. It's very helpful and it's free. Oh, for sure. Those, I think that you recommended me those extensions, so I will definitely check them out. RAID 5 allows a whole drive to go down and you can pull it out and it will recreate it. Not sure how many drives you need for it though. I have a NAS, but I turn off mostly. Yeah, so I think to do RAID 5 you need at least 3 drives. If I remember reading through the true NAS setup properly. And so I only bought 2 and I'm totally okay with doing the mirror. Actually, the mirror is what I want. Like and when it comes to drives failing, that was the primary concern I had. That was the primary reason for buying the NAS, was I had all this external footage on these external, what are these 2.5-inch SSDs, these 4 terabyte external hard drives, and I was afraid that these guys were gonna die. And I had no redundancy on them. So that was my main anxiety. And that's what the NAS was supposed to fix, which it did. It'll fix it once I get them all copied over. All right. Thank you all for listening to my NAS rant. Now we return to our regular scheduled programming. Okay, so for the Critic, we need to go ahead and refactor this, very similar to how the other apps or the other executors are factored. So we have a private read-only AI agent, which is going to be the agent. And we have a private read-only agent thread. And then we'll change this signature. And we are going to say, yes, Copilot, but I've actually kind of enjoyed not having Copilot on most days now. So agent equals agent, and then thread equals agent.getNewThread. Also, for those curious, if you're new here and you want some actually, hold on, let me pin a message real quick. If you're new here, though, the context of what we're doing is I'm using a framework from Microsoft. Yes, Microsoft again. That's called the Agent Framework. If you look in the description of this stream, you can find a link to it, the GitHub for it. But I'm using a framework called Agent Framework to build sort of an LLM-powered app that helps me do content creation, essentially. That's what I'm working on. They also say do frequent backups, and despite having a NAS, I keep not doing as regularly as I should. Yeah, so I do practice pretty good data redundancy, like on my computers. You know, like I have Backblaze set up on all my main, which again, I do not have any sponsors for this channel. I talked about Tailscale yesterday. I'll vouch for Tailscale. They're not a sponsor, but wonderful service. Another service that I've been using for a very long time is Backblaze. They have a wonderful service. It's very simple, very easy to set up. It's $8 a machine, so it can get a little pricey. I currently have it backing up 2 machines. But the nice thing about it is you install it and it works. It just works. Granted, it doesn't work for Linux though, Stefan. So you Linux users, you're out of luck. But this is what I use to back up my actual computers is Backblaze. And you can also use Backblaze. What's also cool about Backblaze is it also supports the ability to connect external drives to your computer, and you can actually back up those external drives as part of your license, part of your subscription, which is pretty cool. Obviously, those drives have to be like connected periodically so they can be re-backed up. You know, they can diff them and figure out if they need to, you know, get rid of the old backup and all that. But great service. If anybody knows anybody at Backblaze, I would love for them to subscribe. Or not subscribe, sponsor me. Steven, what you think about brain rot? No Linux. Yeah, no Linux. Yeah, Backblaze doesn't support Linux. They have an S3 like service that you can use for Linux, but I think it's pricier than the personal backup plan that they offer. So not really a viable option. Are you talking about brain rot in the terms of the AI? There's been there's a paper that came out just recently about brain rot. Are you talking about this? As you can see, I had made my way here already. Is that what you're talking about, Suhas? This has got to be one of the prettiest diagrams that you've ever seen in a research paper ever. I don't think this has gone through peer review yet, though. I think this was released prior to peer review, so you got to kind of take it for what it's worth. Let me fact check that though. LLMs, brain rot, peer review. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought this hadn't gone through peer review yet. Which I know peer review is not perfect, but it is an important part of the process. I haven't, so I don't have an opinion on this. I haven't actually read this paper yet. I have come to it. I've read the abstract and glanced over it, but I haven't actually gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. I would love to do it at some point and have more to say. Maybe I can be like Theo and do a reaction video where I just talk about my thoughts about something. But yeah, it looks very interesting. Sad. Yeah, there's just only so much time in the day, man. I can't read everything, build everything, you know. All right, so we got our critic, we got our AI agent. We don't need this method call anymore. This is gonna take in a success blog post, and then this is gonna return a result. Excuse me. Steven can read it, so we don't have to. Yeah, I do want to read it. Granted, I'll fully admit, like, when I read these papers, some of the work, like, I think that's completely normal. Like, if you're gonna tell me that you can read some of these research papers and understand 99% of what they're talking about, I don't want to call you a liar, but you know, like when I got my bachelor's degree in biochemistry, I took a whole class on how to read research, and I was actually studying that topic, and even reading like research papers on cell biology. I would have to look up things constantly, So these papers actually, if you read them, take a little bit to go through them because inevitably you encounter words that you don't know what they mean. So you like have to pause, go on an adventure to figure out what they're talking about, like basically to build context and background, then come back. And you have to do that over and over and over again. So it takes a little bit. I think this is a 35-page paper, right? Um, or was that a different paper we looked at? Oh, this is a 20-page paper. Yeah, so this is a big paper. This would take somebody a little while to get through. It's dense. This is what you'd call dense reading. The graphs in here are very pretty though. Anywho, it's on the list. Add it to my list. I will definitely check it out for sure. Sue asks, what do you think about what do I think about AI porn? Were you here yesterday? Suas, I can't remember if you were here yesterday. I don't think you were, because it was pretty quiet on stream yesterday, and you normally chat quite a bit. We talked about this a little bit. So my opinion is like morally, morally I'm pretty laissez-faire. You live your life the way you want to live it, and I'll live my life the way I want to live mine, and as long as your shit doesn't fuck with my shit too much, we're good. Um, However, my one opinion on it is I think very clearly OpenAI has made their, how do I put this in like a politically correct, not politically correct, but how do I put this in a not a shitty take? I think OpenAI has revealed themselves to be very transparently interested in one thing, and that is profit. And I don't have an issue with that. I really don't. I think companies should make money. That's fine. My my issue with OpenAI is that on one hand they want to keep telling everybody our mission is to bring AGI to the world for the greater good of humanity. Right? That's what we're trying to do. And then on the other hand, well, here's a browser, and also we're okay with people doing erotic stuff with our platform. And it's like, wait a minute. Is your focus AGI and improving the human condition? Or are you trying to make money? Because like the words that are coming out of your mouth don't really align with the actions that you're taking, right? Am I crazy? Like if you were in charge of the company who was supposedly on the cusp of bringing AGI to the world, would you be concerned with browsers and sex bots, or would you be concerned with a true artificial intelligence? The other hand is busy. The other hand is very busy. Yeah, it's like, look over here, and then the other hand is doing all the work. So I don't. That's the problem I have. It's the disingenuous nature in which they go about presenting themselves. If they were just abundantly transparent and were like, look, we've raised more money than most of the GDPs of the small countries in the world, and we need to figure a way how to make a return on that investment, both for ourselves and our investors. And so we are going to pursue making money from the multi-billion-dollar porn industry, and we are going to pursue making money from the ads industry through capturing your data for advertisers in a browser and through purchase history that you make on, like, if they were just like transparent about those things, I'd be like, go get it, man. Like, make the economy go burr, right? But being dishonest, dishonesty makes it seem like it's malicious. I'm not sure it's malicious. Being disingenuous about it, being not being honest with yourself about what your true intentions are. That's the issue I have. And you may say, well, Steven, you've never built a $1 billion company. And I would say, nope, I haven't. So, you know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my basement streaming on the internet. So you're right. I mean, I don't know. Do I have a leg to stand on? Probably not, but these are my opinions. Prompt.cs. What else do we need? So we have the right. We need the critique agent response. Responding to mostly thoughtful AI comments, Hank Green. Oh, did he put a new video out? I'll have to check that out. I really enjoyed the video he sent me the other day about the AI bubble thoughts. Yeah, I mean both of those brothers are very intelligent, very thoughtful human beings. Sometimes I find them a little bit too politically correct. They're a little bit too PC for me sometimes, but for the most part, they're very intelligent. They do a really good job articulating their viewpoints. So I really enjoy their content. The thing that turned me on to the Green Brothers originally was there was like a series of videos where like they were posting back and forth to each other. That's how I originally found them, was through that series of videos. I always thought that would be fun to do with my own brother. Especially now my brother just had he's getting ready to have a second kid. So we're both in this really interesting phase of our lives, you know, where we're going through kind of the thick of things, you know. We're young men, we're trying to start, you know, we're starting our families, we're trying to get our feet under us economically. And so I think it'd be kind of cool to have like documentation of our lives, you know, and what we're thinking about, our struggles, our challenges. Oh, I need a namespace. Try it. It's cool. Yeah, we need to do it. There for a while I also wanted to do a podcast with my brother. I thought that would be fun. We just have it. It's tough, right? Because like these projects sound cool, but then when you're like, yeah, but I have a 2-year-old and a soon-to-be newborn and a wife. Oh, and a day job. Oh, and I also like to participate in sports and keep up with things. You know what I mean? Like I'll never. For whatever reason, randomly my network drops my signal. Or I guess OBS randomly drops my signal. Maybe I'm overloading my network bandwidth with all this NAS traffic. Let's see, internal sealed class. Also, if you're in the C# world, I'm curious. Does anybody else like seal everything by default? That's become a new habit I've developed after watching there's this series of videos on YouTube by Scott well, it's not by Scott Hanselman. It's part of the .NET team's content, but it's called Deep Dive .NET is the series. Or maybe maybe I have it wrong. Deep.net. What the heck? The Zen browser has Jan or Jan? I'm not sure which one it is, Jan or Jan. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Hi, I'm new here. What are you building right now? Oh my goodness. what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that in my C sharp, Jan, Jan, thanks for subbing. I appreciate you. Um, Lone, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you. I've started doing this sealed keyword on all my classes after watching Stephen Tobe write a lot of code in these deep.NET talks. Stephen Tobe is kind of like the performance wizard of .NET, and he talked about like why he does that and why it's kind of good defensive driving in your code, that if you're going to allow people to inherit from your classes, then you need to design for that, and if you aren't going to design for that, you should just seal everything. So I've started to do that by default. Going back to Jan or Jan's, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna pick one. I'm gonna call you Jan. No, I'm gonna call you Jan. So I'm gonna call you Jan. Make up your mind, Steven. God damn it. What we're building is we are building an LLM-powered app to help me make my life a little easier when I write blog posts. So kind of think of it like my own personal ghostwriter type of experience. That's what I'm trying to create for myself. And we're also in the process of building this. We are learning how to work with this new framework from Microsoft called the Agent Framework. So this is Microsoft basically taking AutoGen and semantic kernel and putting them together, essentially. Not really, like basically taking the learnings from each of those libraries and putting them together. So we're learning how to use this framework while also building something that should be theoretically useful, and having a good time doing it so far. A lot of prompts, a lot of prompt engineering going on. Nice. Yeah, thanks, man. Well, we're glad to have you here. Of course, there's no expectation that you stick around, but if you do, glad to have you. I usually go live most days between 4 a.m. from 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m. each morning. So if you're around during those times, stop on in, say hi. Oh, that's Central Standard Time. I always forget about time zones. Statement on super intelligence. What do you think? I don't know. Suas, will you link that for me? Maybe in Discord? I'm not familiar with that. Also, for those of you who may be interested, we do have a Discord. You go to discord.stephenfreeborn.com. You'll get you hooked up there. I can always tell when my posture's bad. I feel it in my neck. Can you see it? Did you put it in Discord? Sorry, hold on. I gotta log into Discord. Actually, I'm logged out for some reason. Hey, what's up, Ducky Dev? Long time no see, man. Good to see you. I'm looking now, so hold on. Yeah, I see it. Or no, I don't see it. I do not see it. I see Ducky Dev's netcoat link, but I don't see your link. Ducky Dev. I'm just working on a framework I named Glam. Nice. So I gotta ask you, Ducky Dev, since you've been hanging around in my chat, you've talked about projects you worked on. So is your goal to kind of develop some sort of developer tool that a lot of people use? Because like you worked on this Cloudflare thing, which is kind of a developer tool, and now you say you're working on framework. It seems like you work on things that aren't necessarily really like user-facing things. They're meant for like developers to use. Is that sort of the niche you're hoping to like land in or work in? Or maybe that's just what you're interested in, which is different from me because like I'm usually not trying to make new frameworks for developers to learn and use. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. I think that's cool, man. Yeah. It's not my shtick, you know? That's not really like I've told you guys, most of the stuff I build is more about solving my own problems, but yeah, I don't have any interest in really trying to invent some new web framework or anything like that. User based is harder to do than dev facing. Hmm. I, I don't know, man. I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, developer tools are tough, and developers are pretty. I don't know about you guys, but developers are kind of difficult customers. I mean, they're very opinionated. they they typically think they know better. So I don't know, man. You're a brave fella, Ducky Dev. Let's see, internal sealed. Oh, this needs to be partial. Internal sealed partial class. I've built an AI API provider. It's OpenAI compatible with over 50 models. The advantages are that you have all models in one place and you save at least 30% on API costs. Very cool. So that's kind of like somebody introduced me to something like that recently called, what was it called, chat? It was something router. I want to say Open Router, maybe? Yeah, there you go. Open Router. Yeah, somebody introduced me to something like that. So is this kind of what you built? Something that approximates this, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, it doesn't really work well for me because I prefer to work in the .NET space if I can. And I think they just have a TypeScript and a Python SDK. Or at least those are the official ones. I'm sure I could build an SDK for C#, but I'm not super interested in going down that rabbit hole at the moment. Let's see if there is. This actually might be a kind of a fun project for me. I could build a C. I could in Ducky Devs. I could build a C# SDK for this, huh? Although the thing is, when you build these SDKs, when you build non-official SDKs for platforms like this, it's a lot of work to keep up with it, you know? Oh, excuse me. Stu, also I see your link. I'll check that out in a moment. Thanks for sharing that with me. Yes, open router, but mine is cheaper. Oh, nice, very cool. So is it like a business, Sean? You can plug it here in the chat if you want. Go ahead and plug it, man. Unless it's not like open and publicly available, but if you want to plug it, you're welcome to. Yo, Steve Ann, check DMs. I finished the system prompt for Casper. Oh, I saw that. Sorry, I meant to give you a reaction yesterday. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. The framework I'm making is genuinely so fast. We use Bun and our own React compatible thing called Glammy. Very cool, man. I think one of the things though, Ducky Dev, I'll say to you is I don't know how do you plan on getting people to adopt a framework when you're competing against things like Hano, like especially in the JavaScript world. It's crowded, man. It's crowded. So this seems like when you say to me doing things in user space is more difficult than doing things for developers, I don't know. I think I disagree. Like the developer market is pretty niche. It's pretty small. Developers as customers are kind of pains in the asses. They want everything for nothing in most cases, right? Developers are kind of spoiled in that way. They've gotten really used to a lot of free open source work, and so they don't want to spend money themselves. They'll happily spend their money's company, but they won't spend money themselves really. um, and then they also tend to be very entrenched in whatever technology stack they're in. So convincing them that they should move from like React to Glammy seems like a big lift. But I'd be interested to hear how you think about those things conceptually. If that's your end goal, right? I'm guessing you have some sort of plan when you work on these things. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have a plan, which is fine too. I'm just curious. I think I think I would like to make money from building software, but I'm pretty sure I don't want to run a SaaS. I don't want to do developer tooling. I really would like to just build some sort of native application, you know, that all runs locally. It it persists all the data locally on the user's machine. Um, people pay once, they have it for life. That type of kind of. I don't know if you guys have seen DHH's company 37 Signals. They created a label called once.com. I'd like to make software like this, where it's like we build it one time, you buy it, you own it, you know, and then and there's nothing else promised. It's like what you get is what you get. You install it on the machine. I want to sell software. I want to have a business. I want to have a business that requires as minimal maintenance as possible. If I'm gonna sell software, I do not want to be like at the behest of users all the time. Which I know is like that's kind of oxymoronic in a way, but yeah, that's this model is kind of I saw them release both of these products, Campfire and Writebook, and I thought that's kind of the model I'd like to have, where you build something that's useful, that maybe people can find the value in paying you, $4.99 or something to install it from the Windows App Store, or download a Docker container or something. And if you want to keep working on it, great. If not, you just move on to the next project. But people got the product they paid for, and I don't know. The whole SaaS thing just doesn't sound super fun. Although it seems very profitable. Doesn't sound fun, but seems very profitable. Excuse me. Public const string system instructions. Okay, so we need to now work on the prompt for this. I actually already did this sort of, kinda, not really. See if I can find it. this would be something prompt. This right here. So I tried to use Gemini's deep research capability to basically look at my blog and build a prompt. I basically tried to have it build a I had it build a prompt that was like, I want you to instruct the LM to write like me, was basically the prompt I was trying to develop. But I was trying to have it build that prompt based on looking at actual writing that I had done. Which might still be useful. The research there might still be useful. But basically what I want what I want out of this critic is I want this critic to basically look at the blog posts that are being produced by my app, and I want it to do like I want it to give feedback on whether or not it sounds like me, right? Because like what's the point of this app if every rough draft it produces I have to completely rewrite because it sounds like an LLM and doesn't sound like me, right? So like that's not useful. So I'm going to try to prompt my way through that problem. I don't know how reliable that is, but that's my idea. See you, Suos. Thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. I'll check out that super intelligence thing. I appreciate you sharing it with me. Jan, want to check it out? Would love to hear some feedback. Launched it some days ago. Yeah, for sure, man. If you want to join our Discord and you want to post the links in there, I'd be happy to give it a go. What API do you use for LM? Right now, I use Gemini. So Microsoft does provide a set of abstractions that allow you to kind of swap providers in and out. So they have a library called it's called Microsoft.extensions.ai. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Microsoft.extensions.ai. This one. I think it's this one. That basically act as a way to kind of give you a common level of abstraction so that if you want to build, if you want to be able to swap models in and out, like you want to use Anthropic, you want to use Gemini, you want to use OpenAI for different reasons, different use cases, you can. You just have to implement these common abstractions, which is really nice. And I've just chosen Gemini because I pay for their service, and I like that the Gemini models are pretty capable. They're multimodal. Anthropic is probably my second favorite, and then OpenAI is on the very bottom. What is the Discord link? You can go to discord.stephenfreeborn.com. I'll put it in the chat again. discord.stephenfreeborn.com. Oh, also, while I'm here, there was somebody that replied to me on Nightbot's support Discord, or their Discord channel, and they said, what did they say? They said that one of the problems I might be having is YouTube might be blocking my commands because they have links in them, is what they said. So let me... Sorry, I know I'm getting distracted, but now that I'm here and I'm thinking about it, I want to try this. Code Goo. Hello, Code Goo. That's quite the username. All right, let me see if I can delete. Let me delete these real quick. And then my timers, I think I need to delete these guys. So this was the best option. This was the best suggestion Nightbot could offer me to explain why maybe things weren't working, despite me being able to see the logs, right? Because like Nightbot's here, it can see all the logs of our chat, but for whatever reason, it hasn't been responding to commands. So let's try this again. Let's see. Title. So this should work. This is a built-in Nightbot command. And you can see Nightbot saw it. But it's not getting through. Huh. Well, they're wrong. I just approved your Discord approval, or your Discord app to my server. So you should be in there now. I'm sure all of us in that Discord would love to hear about your project, so thank you for sharing it. I'm going to run upstairs, guys, and get some more coffee, and then be right back. Totally understand if you got to jump. I never expect anybody to sit around and wait for me to go get coffee, so if you've got to go, no worries. I appreciate you hanging out. Otherwise, if you want to stick around, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to go upstairs and pull another shot of espresso, and then maybe I'll be more productive then. So be right back. Went to get coffee. I wonder how many people, I do wonder, since I do this about the same time every day, I do wonder how many people are scrolling their shorts feed and they come across my stream with this message pulled up and an empty chair, and then they scroll on. Every morning. They're like, oh, there's that guy that is always getting coffee. Bahelu, good to see you, Bahelu. How are you doing? Thanks for dropping by the stream. This is the first time I've seen you in my chat, so welcome, welcome. All kinds are welcomed here. Cecilia, thanks for the subscription. We appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Jan said that's me. Is that really you? Is that that's hilarious. Yeah. All right, coffee. You guys can take a break too. This is a good time for you guys to go take a break and refill your cups. Hermana, that's how I found you, but I just stayed on. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sticking around. I am gonna go get more coffee, so we're gonna maybe some more people will find an empty chair with the coffee message and think they want to stick around. So I'll be right back. Don't let me forget I'm muted. I've been doing a pretty good job at remembering that I'm muted when I come back, but if I forget, just drop something in the chat. BRB. Alright, I'm back. Also, I've been meaning to tell you guys this, chat, or those of you who are here in my chat, not that you're all just one person. Or maybe you are one. Maybe this is all just few bots. But what I wanted to say to you guys is I appreciate you all tuning into my live streams. My live streams have been the one thing that have actually been helping my channel grow. So I appreciate you guys making time to be here and chat and interact with me. I do not take it for granted. So thank you very much. Okay, so we're trying to get Gemini to write us a handy little prompt. Okay, so let's turn off. Oh, no, I guess I can't turn that off. Okay. All right. I've pivoted. I need you to draft a prompt that I can give to an LLM along with a blog post. The goal of the LLM will be to assess how similar the blog post is in style, tone, and voice to Stephen Freeborn's existing writing, which you've already researched and analyzed. The LLM will return in its response should indicate whether changes are needed, and then it should provide specific feedback on what to change. This is, again, if you're new here, this is kind of how I do all my initial prompts. I almost always have some LLM generate the prompt, and then from there I iterate on it. Jan, thanks for sharing your API provider. Appreciate you. I'm curious, have you got your first if you're still here, Jan, have you got your first customer yet? Here, I'll paste that into chat here. Okay, you're writing a style. Your task is to evaluate blah blah blah. It's crazy. It really is kind of hilarious. Every time you put one of these blogs, or these prompts together, it really is funny how we are trying to program machine learning models with natural language. It's something out of science fiction, isn't it? Jessis, thanks for subscribing. Zed, thanks for subscribing. I love a Zed. Good name. Good name. Yon 1. He doesn't use it much. He doesn't need it at that much. Oh, well, I'm sorry, man. You put all that work into it. Only got 1 so far. Well, hopefully someone will come along. I know you're playing in a relatively small sandbox that's pretty crowded. So I don't think you should beat yourself up too much. It seems like Open Router has, I'm guessing they're kind of like a market leader, if I had to guess, in that space. But I think a utility like that makes sense, right? I think I don't know at what level of the stack it makes the most sense. Launched it some days ago. Well, I'm hoping people come and sign up, man. You put effort into something, you want to see people use it. But I think it makes sense for there to be some common layer of abstraction. I don't know if that should happen at the network level or if it should happen at the language level, but people need the ability to move in and out of providers. So I definitely think you're onto something. I wonder why. Excuse me. I wonder why it formatted it this way. I think I'm just gonna go. Open Router is market leader, but a lot of developers want to save API costs so it can be great. So I guess so. If you don't mind me asking, and maybe you don't want to share publicly, but so how are you getting 30% cheaper costs? Is that a business decision you're making? Are you eating that cost, or is there something technically you're doing? And granted, you don't have to give away your secrets. I'm curious. Is it an economic decision where you're just saying, "Oh, I don't have as much overhead, so I don't need to take as big of a vig on the service," or have you discovered some fundamentally different technical approach? But yeah, I can definitely see cost savings being value add. The thing is though, businesses that are usually I have also providers, but I don't want to publish the details. Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough, man. No worries. I was curious, because I would imagine you don't have like it's nothing fundamentally Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I guess yeah, that's the thing. I would imagine that you're just. I mean, I could be wrong, right? Maybe you're a very well connected individual. I would imagine that the pricing you're getting from the providers and the pricing Open Router's getting, I'm gonna assume they're the same. So to be 30% cheaper on the same models, that's quite a bit, right? 30% off a service or a cost of good is pretty significant. I don't know. It's difficult when you build a business that's predicated on price, right? Because then it eventually does become a race to the bottom in a lot of cases. But if you can be the cheapest option and offer the most value, right? That's definitely a valuable place to be. Um, Okay. I think now we should try this out, yeah? So we have our system prompt, we have our editor agent, which is wonderful. Or no, not our editor agent. We have our critic agent, which is wonderful. Now we need to wire all this up. So our critic agent response is going to look a lot like our editor agent response. I don't think these need to really be different. These can probably share. This can probably be a common class or a common structure, but I'm just going to duplicate it for now. Let's see, and then we're gonna have our critic. Now our critic is different because technically the critic is the last agent in the chain, right? So the critic actually doesn't need to pass a message on, really. The critic needs to actually be the one that tells the user that we've successfully generated a blog post, and then it also needs to be the one that actually writes that blog post out. So this implementation is going to look a little different. So I guess the first thing we need is we need the var blog post message, which equals message.value.content. Or no, we're just toString. What we want. Or toMarkdown, I think is what we want. toMarkdown. And then we're going to say var agent response equals await agent.runAsync. We're gonna Mohammed, thanks for the subscription. Sorry, man, my stream elements alert there about ran off the edge of my screen. I might have to. I wasn't expecting usernames to be so long. I might need to go and fix that. Jan, I search for my next project. I'm 16 and build everything with my cousin together. I will see where the journey takes me. That's awesome. That you're 16 and you're building stuff like what is it? The Ether API. That's pretty cool, man. You're well on your way. At 16, the only thing I was worried about was hanging out with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and playing football. I liked hanging out with my girlfriend, playing football. I was focused on being the best American football player I could be. Was working out a lot, but I had no concept of programming or coding or building things on the internet or anything like that. Which is, it's so funny. If you're new here, if you're not new here, you probably have heard this story before. But my dad actually worked in IT. He was actually the IT guy for our high school, where I lived, for like since 2000. He doesn't work there anymore, but he got the job in like 2001. And then, I graduated high school in 2011, and then he worked there for like 5 more years after that. So he was the IT guy there for 15 years probably, and before that he worked at a small computer patch store doing like authorized Mac computer repair type stuff. But it's funny because like in all the time I was growing up, we never talked about like IT being a career field. We never talked about software development or programming or anything like that. I think the assumption for my parents was we were all going to become some sort of like professional. Like we were going to be either a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, right? Like we were going to go to college and get one of those kind of jobs. Looking back now, though, I kind of wish my dad would have introduced me to some of this stuff earlier. I made a short yesterday where I kind of shared the reason I started learning to code was primarily just it was primarily just a self-improvement thing. I was like, hey, I want to acquire a new skill, and programming seemed like a good idea, so that's why I started. But it's been one of the best decisions of my life because it's turned me on to a whole hobby, passion, a whole thing I didn't know I enjoyed as much as I enjoy it, right? Long after the AI takes everyone's jobs, I will still be writing code because it's fun, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's 5:50, it's 5:50 in the morning, 5:50 a.m. and I'm in my basement writing code. So I'm very happy with my decision to find Free Code Camp and follow their curriculum. All right, so we'll run that response. So this is basically this is the meat and potatoes of everything my app does. We're gonna send the blog post over to the LLM with our system instructions, and we're gonna say, hey, do you have any feedback for this? Then we're gonna say, okay, var critic res is going to, we're just gonna deserialize this. So we're gonna assume that the LLM has returned properly structured JSON, and we're gonna say JSON serializer, JSON serializer dot deserialize, and we'll say critic agent response, and we'll pass in the text here. And if this is null, if critic res is null, well, we've got a problem, right? We're gonna return result.fail, and we'll probably also yield some sort of output to the user. I think at this point, I don't know what we'll say. We'll probably say something like, uh-oh. Why is the, oh, I gotta forward the token. So we'll probably do something like this, uh-oh. And then if everything worked happily the way it should have, then we're basically at the end of my workflow. My workflow should just exit, and then we should yield something to the user that's like success. And then we should have something here that writes the blog post to disk. Because we don't want to print it in the terminal. That will look dumb, right? Because it's going to be like multiple paragraphs of text. We don't want to print it in the terminal. We just want to write it out and pass them a path to the file for their review. And when I say user, I'm meaning me, because I'm the only one that's probably ever going to use this tool. But yeah. Jan, do you think a person should begin learn programming today because of AI? I personally do. I mean, my hot take, my take on AI is very middle of the road. I'm not an AI maximalist. I'm not an AI minimalist. I use AI. I pay for Gemini. I pay for Copilot. And as somebody who's been using Copilot for the last 2 years, 3 years, and been using Gemini or some version of a chat AI for the last 2 or 3 years, I've yet to see evidence that AI can replace a human being. I've definitely seen Amadea, maybe is how you say your name. Thank you for the subscription. I appreciate you. I've yet to see evidence where these LLMs, agentic or non-agentic versions of these generative AIs, I mean, the difference between generative AI and agentic AI is largely that with agentic AI, you've just given the AI the ability to call deterministic code that a developer wrote. So, Yeah, I've yet to see evidence that they can replace a human being. I've seen lots of evidence that they can augment human beings, right? They can make a really good programmer that much better or that much more productive. They can make writers or researchers. I mean, whatever your job is, I've definitely seen evidence that generative AI can have a positive effect on your productivity. However, I don't think they obfuscate the need to learn how to program. Because while you can definitely get very far with just vibe coding your way to something, you're always going to run up against things that the AI is just not going to be able to fix for you, right? Like, how do I get something deployed? How do I write this so that it's oh, how do I handle this application being deployed by a reverse proxy or not being behind a reverse proxy? All these types of things that are like nuanced and require a lot of context about a lot of disparate pieces of knowledge. There still has to be a human in there that is knowledgeable, right? There still has to be a knowledgeable operator. So I think we're a long ways away from AI making programming or developers obsolete. And when I say long way, I mean, I'm 32 years old, and so what I care about is getting to the end of my career, which is hopefully 20 or so years from now. So as long as developer jobs or the need for people who write code doesn't disappear in the next 20 years, I'll be happy. And honestly, though, I mean, full disclosure, if if that does actually come to pass, like if Sam Altman's vision for reality happens and AI takes over the world and we all lose our jobs, I'll just go find a different career. I'll find another job. I've already done that 4 times in my life. I'll just do it again. I'm not worried or scared about that. There'll always be work on this earth. Like it's not going away. So I'll just go find different work and I'll write code in my free time for fun. You know, that's how it used to be. Um, so I'm okay with going back to that. Okay, so this is still a to do. We need to finish implementing this. Joy, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate you. But I do want to test this. So let's run over to well, actually, let's wire this up first. So let's run over to our program CS. And let's wire all this up. So we'll say services dot add keyed singleton. I'm gonna abstract all this to an extension method. So this is gonna be our critic agent. That. Then we'll say services dot add singleton. What do I want to say here? Critic. And then down here, for now, I'll say host.services.get required service. Let's see if critic. So critic goes to writer if it's a failure. Otherwise, we just get the output from the critic. And then, okay, that's good. So that's all wired up. So now let's write a quick test to test out this critic agent. Oh, actually, one last thing I got to do. I need to tell the critic how to resolve the agent from the DI container. So if we go to our critic, we actually need to put an attribute up here that says this is a keyed service, and you need to resolve it according to the name critic agent. is what you need to resolve it. Like that. Now we can write our tests. And we'll see. We'll see if our prompt is any good. So let's go write a test here. We'll add it to our integration bucket. That should be Critic. And we'll say Critic agent tests, like that. Namespace is going to be casper.console.test.integration.critique. I know, it's a long namespace. It's a long namespace. Public class Critic agent is an integration test, like this. Then we need to implement our constructor. But yeah. Hey, what's up, Arvin? Good to see you, man. Yawn, I vibe coded Ether API completely. For deploying on my home server, I asked AI. I had problems, which was hard to solve, but at some point it got fixed. Well, fantastic, man. Yeah, I mean, that's a great. There's a great anecdote of how far you can get with vibe coding something. But yeah, deployment, right? That's always going to be a sticky point. Yeah, I mean, just there's always. I think, and granted, I can be proven wrong, right? I'm just some random guy in his basement in Kansas talking to the internet. So my opinions are n equals 1, and I could be completely wrong. I just think I've yet to experience a version of AI that could replace the developers I work for or work with, right? So I work with 4 or 5 developers. We maintain a pretty legacy code base. And I just don't think you could turn Copilot loose on our code base and all of a sudden replace all 4 of our developers. I think you could give all of our developers access to Copilot and they would be more productive, likely, right? They would be able to iterate things out. Like that's a completely different environment to vibe code in than to go into an existing code base with existing limitations, older technology that maybe the LLM's not so great at. Like maybe it's not a Python project, maybe it's not a TypeScript project, maybe it's a Perl thing, or maybe it's a .NET framework thing even, and have Copilot start implementing features or fixing bugs. Those are just completely different vibe coding experiences. Greenfield is always going to be easier. It's always going to be easier. Burger Party. Hello, good day. What you coding, bro? Hello, Burger Party. I like your username. We're working on building. So Microsoft released this new framework a couple weeks ago called the Agent Framework. So if you're in the .NET space, there's largely been, if you're in the .NET world, if you're in the C# world, there haven't really been great options for building AI things. So you end up implementing a lot of things yourself. .NET did have something called semantic kernel, which was pretty helpful for doing AI related things in your applications. They also had semantic kernel for Python. They also had another library called AutoGen for Python. And so Microsoft basically took the learnings from semantic kernel and AutoGen and brought them into this new thing that they're calling Agent Framework. And so I'm exploring how you use this, right? How do you use this framework? But in order to really understand something, I've always found that I need to build a project, right? And so ideally the project is something that's useful and solves a problem that you understand, right? And scratches your own itch. So the thing that I decided to try to do was, could I create an application that basically acts as like my ghostwriter and helps me produce content for my blog. Not necessarily an AI slop generator, Burger Party, but more of a, how do I go from, I have an idea that's like 3 sentences to a kind of a rough first draft. And so that's what we're trying to use the the powers of generative AI to help facilitate in sort of this agentic like structure. Most of my agents are just a system prompt. Like all like the editor agent, the critic agent, all of these guys, it's basically just a system prompt and then a call out to an LLM at this point. The research agent actually does some research. It does actually do some function calling or tool use. But for the most part, this is just conceptually a like architectural pattern to organize prompts and requests to an LLM. So that's what we're building. We've been working on it for a couple weeks now. I think Agent Framework came out two Wednesdays ago. And so we've just been hacking on it each morning while we drink our coffee and discuss all the wonderful things happening in the world. We something. I don't even know what that username is. Isn't C language the fastest? Like every other language seems pointless because it's similar to the C language but worse in its performance or something. I'm starting out with assembly and I'm thinking of learning C right after I got the low level stuff memorized. Wow. You're starting at very, very low level. That's a completely different path than I took. So I've never written any C and I've never written any assembly. So the first language I ever learned was C#, and then after that it was mainly JavaScript, TypeScript, some Python, HTML, CSS. That's kind of and I haven't really gone into the low level stuff. I've dabbled a little bit with Rust, but haven't done much in the way of languages that aren't garbage collected. So you're way down there in the base of the stack. But I guess that's good depending on what it is you want to do. Seems like if you want to do high performant, low level things, you need to know C or a language that allows you to do the things that C does. And it seems like assembly could be helpful there too, to understand how the code you write actually compiles to actually, the actual instructions that run on whatever architecture you're on. So you're in a whole different world, man. As far as the other languages being pointless, I don't think they're pointless. I think they just solve a different set of problems. I mean, C, as I understand it, has quite a bit of mental overhead when you're writing code because you have to manually manage memory, and so you have to be pretty careful with the way you do things. And I think Python's a good example of, like, you might say, well, why would you write Python if it's slower than C? And the reason why you write Python is because you're a machine learning expert and you care far less about software engineering or coding, and you care far more about exploring the ideas that you have about machine learning, right? So you want a language that sort of like gets out of your way and just lets you explore the problems and solve the problems that you're interested in, not become necessarily a professional software engineer, right? So I think there's a reason why all these different languages at varying levels of abstraction have entered the chat, right? They're not pointless, or that's not how I would describe them. But yes, at some point you enter a space where now performance matters, and so you do have to either explore languages that are more statically typed or compiled or closer to what you get from C, than what you can eke out with like really optimized interpreted code. So it's what's the right analogy? We're gonna chat. What's the right analogy here? This is more of a there's a tool for every job type of analogy. Yeah, this is like if in this conversation C's a hammer and not everything's a nail. So can you do a lot of stuff with C, right? Can you express a lot of the same things that you do in Python with C code? Yes. Does a lot of the Python code call C code? Yes. But for the user, for the person who wants to do data science or wants to build a simple API or wants to host a website or, or automate tasks, right? Any of those things, performance isn't that big of a concern, right? It's like the problem that they're trying to solve is the concern. And so what's the fewest lines of code to get to a solution or to answer the next question in their research, right? Um, and then there's also an aspect to it where it's just about enjoyment, right? It's just about, I like this particular language and I want to work in it, right? There are people who just like, for example, I'm one of them. I just like C#. I like the language. I like the way it feels. I like the ergonomics. I like the type system, right? And that's the wonderful thing is you can pick and choose what tools you want. I did assume that you would go more low level with the amount of experience that you got, but I guess what you are doing is getting the job done. Yeah, I don't have and I wouldn't say I'm the most experienced. I mean, I've worked in technology only for 5 years at this point, and I've only been being paid to write code for like the last 2 to 3 years. I've been writing code for about 5 years, but I've only been professionally, people have only been paying me to write code to solve problems for like a couple years. So maybe I haven't reached an experience level where I feel the need, but yeah, I don't have the need to write low level code like that, or nor necessarily a big interest in it. Like at this point, maybe there is some arc to my career where I want to do something with embedded systems, and so I have to go over there. Maybe I want to go work at the Chicago Board of Exchange, and so I need to go learn how to do really high performant C code for that. But at this point, I'm happy being a quality engineer. I'm happy doing web development on the internet. Yeah, life's good. Yeah, maybe within a few years you learn assembly as well. Maybe. I've kind of got distracted here, but I was actually watching this YouTube video yesterday. I shared it on my channel. I don't even know if people see these posts. YouTube doesn't do a good job of like sharing these, but I made a post yesterday. So this video is by two gentlemen. So let me see this ad. Let's get over this ad. Some of you may be familiar with this channel, Molly Rocket. So this is run by a guy named Casey Muratori, I think is how you say his name. This gentleman here. And what I know about him, obviously, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I know about him is like he's pretty prolific in like the game development space and a pretty adept low level like developer. Really knows it. I mean, it sounds like he really knows his shit. And then this guy, his name's Carson Gross. He works at Montana State University. He's a professor, but he also invented HTMX or developed HTMX, co-authored HTMX, which is like it's like a JavaScript library that extends HTML basically. And these guys this is a really good video. You guys should go watch it. But they built at Montana State. They built a mini computer to basically teach people kind of about the lower level learnings, the lower level workings of computers. And I was listening to these guys talk for an hour and a half. It became very clear to me that I don't even know if I'd consider myself. I definitely wouldn't consider myself a computer scientist, and I don't even know if I'd consider myself a developer after listening to these guys talk, because they were talking about like assembly instructions and registers and just things that like I'm over here in my managed C# language, just like, yeah, let's throw something on the heap and let's put something on the stack, and who cares about string allocations, and that's somebody else's problem. So it just, it just was a good reminder that there's still an ocean of knowledge that I've yet to acquire, which is exciting, right? There's lots for me still to learn, um, which is it's the reasons I get up every morning and and write code, because I enjoy trying to learn and build and be better than I was yesterday at this. I really like how I ask one question and you show me videos and everything. We can learn more about it. Yeah. Well, I just try to engage with you guys. It's like I feel like, do I want to write code and do I want to build and be productive? Yes, but I feel like if I'm gonna stream, like a big reason to stream is to interact with you all. So have a conversation. There is sometimes too much to learn within assembly. Yeah, I wish I could have a more intelligent conversation about it, but I really, I really, yeah, I'm kind of a baby when it comes to that topic. Excuse me. But it sounds like you're on a path, man, and I'm excited for you. Oh, whoops. I was like, why? That doesn't make any sense. There we go. Thanks, bro. Yeah, the reason I chose low level is because I think I'm quite smart, so I should probably make it through. Oh, you'll be fine, man. I'm someone who kind of believes like anybody can do anything they set their mind to, you know? So you'll be just fine. If you're motivated, that's what you want to learn, you'd be great. But I think that's a real like one of my chatters shared this concept with me and it's really stuck with me. And so I've got this image that I keep on my desktop because it comes up a lot. But when you're thinking about what you want to do in life or the things you want to pursue, right? You're kind of looking for. I guess this is a Japanese concept, um, but you're kind of looking for an overlap of these different things, right? You're looking for an overlap of like things people find value, things you're good at, things you enjoy. And I honestly think the what you love is really important because I think if you love something and you want to and you really enjoy it, that means you'll typically do it a lot. And I believe that being good at something is largely predicated on a lot of reps, a lot of practice. So I think if you love something, which means you want to do it a lot, and if you do something a lot, I think inevitably you become pretty damn good at it. And so hopefully if you can figure out the first two things, right? If you can figure out these two things, right? Then it's just kind of a matter of trying to find one thing that you love and inevitably will get good at that other people will pay for, right? That's and lucky for me, I've kind of I found something like that with coding and engineering and development where like hopefully AI doesn't displace us all in the next year and a half. But people still seem to find value in having the ability to solve problems with code, and I really enjoy doing that. Tigo Tigo Mali Tego Mali. An analogy I have is simply is for when you found a city. C is for the city's infrastructure. C# is for building a neighborhood. Python is for building a house. At least that's how I see it. I think that's a great way to see it. It's like, yeah, it's they're levels of abstraction, and you need different things at different layers of the stack, right? You care about different things at each of those layers, 100%, you know? And there's people who work at each layer, right? There's people who are going to build the neighborhoods. You also need people who are going to lay the infrastructure. They're not necessarily the same people. So, yeah, I think that's a lovely analogy, man. I also think that analogy is important to remember, because I also think there is a what I want to call it. There's a trend in software engineering that people that are at lower levels of the stack kind of shit on people that are at higher levels of the stack. And I think it's important to remember that, like, in the physical world, we do not put that same onus on people, right? People who build homes don't necessarily need to understand how to build roads, right? Or lay out cities or do civil engineer. Like, it's okay to work at different layers of abstraction. Does it help you to be aware of how the lower levels work, or to have some awareness? Yes, most definitely. I would never argue that. But it doesn't make the home builder less than the road builder, or vice versa, right? And that, in the software engineering world, there's sort of an elitism that happens where it's like, well, I know assembly and I know C, and you're just a JavaScript monkey. And I don't know. I don't find that attitude particularly helpful. I think the less you use your brain, the harder it is. The first time I was learning about chess, I didn't even know how the knight moved, but then I spent every day of my life on chess, and eventually I could calculate a million moves ahead. That's a good analogy. Yeah, I agree with the analogy that Tego put in the chat. But yeah, I would agree with what you said about chess. I think reps, man. You want to be good at something, you got to spend a lot of time on it. You want to be a great football player, you got to play a lot of football. You want to be a great baseball player, you got to play a lot of baseball. You want to be good at building software, you got to build a lot of software. You got to get your reps. Wow, I didn't know the elitism was this bad. Yeah, I mean, maybe I've just had bad experiences over the last 4 or 5 years, but, you know, like with anything, humans are humans, right? So you run into people that are really nice, and then you run into people who are kind of just the ultimate douchebags. And you do your best to avoid the negative ones, but sometimes, sometimes you can't help it. Let's see, run async. When called, it should return a response. This is just kind of a smoke test. I've been doing this with every agent, where I just kind of add a test that's more meant to make sure I have things wired up halfway decent. So we'll say var blog post message equals await. Or I guess I can say blog post equals await test data factory, and then dot value. Then we can say var blog post message equals blog post to markdown. And we'll say var response equals await agent under test, AUT, agent under test, run async, and then we'll pass in our blog post message, and then we'll also pass in our cancellation token. So we'll say test context dot current dot cancellation token, like this, and then we'll just say response should not be null, like that. And then we'll refresh our I also need to add a fact attribute like that. Now we'll refresh our test. And then we'll give this a quick run and we'll see what we get back. Assuming it's all wired up correctly. Hope I don't have to work with ultimate douchebags, but might have to at some point. Yeah. I was actually talking to my son. I have 2 sons. I'm a 32-year-old dad of 2. And so I have 2 sons. One of them's in 4th grade, and he's been playing tackle football the last 2 years. And it's actually something we talked a whole lot about how important, why participating in sports is a really good experience, because you inevitably have to work with people like that, people who are not the nicest human beings, right? And especially you interact with like coaches, right, that have like authority, but they're not the nicest human beings. And so you have to learn how to navigate those situations, because to your point, sometimes you don't get to pick your boss, right? And sometimes you don't get to pick your coworkers, and you have to be adept at having to deal with people that are not the easiest to work with. I didn't know that you think. Well, that's not what I meant at all. But that ability to like work with, especially on engineering teams, right? You're gonna have engineers who are like super nice, super normal people, and then you're gonna have the engineers that want to be like the smartest guy in the room and just constantly want to prove how much they know about everything. And so you're gonna have to learn how to balance those personalities. It's a problem. Sometimes your boss is your dad. These dynamics can happen. I mean, obviously you want to do your best to avoid these problematic dynamics, but these are things. Okay, so here's the blog post I sent over to the LLM, and let's see what it sent back. Oh wow, it gave me a bunch of, let's see, issue, narrative structure, and core persona. The post presents the transition as uniformly smooth and effortless, largely omitting any personal challenges or messy middle experiences the author might have encountered during their own journey or observed in others. This deviates from Stephen's emphasis on candid accounts of struggles and mistakes. Suggestion: introduce a section or weave in personal anecdotes about unexpected hurdles. Huh. This is interesting, because these suggestions, unlike the editor, these are much more. I should probably toggle word wrap. This would be easier to read with word wrap on. These suggestions are far more like, frame the author's initial perspective with more self-reflection. Inject some informal or colloquial language. Huh. So I'll be interested once I run this thing through, like start to finish. I'll be interested to see what ends up coming out the other end, but it seems to work. I seem to have things wired up. The one thing I need to probably figure out though is, and I don't know, I'm curious what you guys think, if you guys have thoughts, but I'm thinking that for these 2 agents, I'm thinking for these 2 like kind of editor agents, right? These people are supplying feedback. I actually think that it's going to be important that there's 2 things that are important. I think the first thing is, I think they need to be pretty deterministic. So I think I need to increase the temperature. I think I just need to set the temperature at like 2. Which is, that basically not 2. Is it 1? I think it's 1. Or 0, sorry. I think Gemini's API goes from 0 to 2. So maybe set the temperature here to 0, so that things are more deterministic. And then the other thing I think that I probably need to do is I probably need to have like revision limit. Like, I don't want these things just going ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, So maybe like set the revision limit to one or two times. Yeah, I'm thinking these need to be more deterministic, and there needs to be a limit because I don't want to just I don't want to just find myself in a while loop. uh, but yeah, so we have everything on the screen we have implemented now at this point, and we have it all wired up in our we have it all wired up in our entry point. It's all wired up. Actually, I can also change this. Instead of failure, we can set this to feedback. Like that. So our workflow is user goes to the interviewer. If the user is if the interviewer is successful, it goes to the if it's unsuccessful, it goes to the user. If it's successful, it goes to the researcher. A dot in the cosmos. Now that is a username, my friend. Great username. See, researcher goes to the writer. Writer goes to the editor. If the editor says we need you to make changes, it goes back to the writer. If the editor says we're all good here, then it goes to the critic. If the critic says we're all good here, we just get the output. But if the critic says, hey, we have feedback for you, then we send it back to the writer. So that's our workflow, which is good. I'm kind of curious if this actually works. Well, this actually isn't going to work because I haven't finished implementing the critic agent. Test critic. There we go. So we'll say await file dot write all text async, and this will be the blog post message is what we'll write out. Oh, we need the path too. Let's see. This is all stuff that I'm going to make configurable, and I'm going to probably sounds like my wife isn't feeling well. I remember failing an F# course like 3 times, got it eventually. I think functional programming is great, but just took time. I've not tried F#. That's one of the things that's on my list of stuff to try. So I've never written any F#, but I've heard good things about it. Sometimes you block out the stressful programming memories. Turtlehead, can you explain to me how you remember this? Turtlehead, it's largely just reps, man. You spend enough time in a particular language, and it just kind of like ingrains itself into your fingertips. It's kind of one of the reasons why if you're early on learning to program or write code, you probably don't want to be using too much AI, because you do kind of want you want the knowledge of the language and how to write things. You want it sort of almost in your hands, right? It's like it's less about it being in your brain and more about it being in your fingertips. And when you use Copilot, which there's nothing wrong with using Copilot, I use Copilot. Akram, thanks for the subscription. I use Copilot. It's just when you use Copilot a lot, some of that competence, it doesn't necessarily drain from your brain, but it drains from your fingertips, and so it slows you down because you almost like are waiting for Copilot to finish writing for you instead of your fingers being like, yeah, okay, here's what an if statement looks like. Here's what a for statement or a for loop looks like. And some people might say, well, Stephen, that doesn't matter in the age of AI because AI is going to do all that trivial stuff. That's a completely separate topic. But if you're asking how do you remember it, it's largely just practice, a lot of practice. Batch is basically like assembly, but trying to destroy your brain cells instead and aim for the least amount of I'm not sure what batch is. I've never heard of that. You can get my chair. I got it for $10. It lasted 5 years and the leather is completely dismantled. Oh, I was saying at the beginning of the stream, or maybe you were here. I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I need to invest in a new chair. But I want like a nice chair. Like I want like $1,000 chair, you know? But at the same time, I'm like, do people really need $1,000 chairs? According to some of my coworkers, it's worth it, but how do I want to do this? I guess I'll just use the app context. I'll just say app context dot base directory file path equals path dot combine. I guess we'll do the app context dot base directory, and then we'll just put this in a file, which we'll call. We'll say blog post message. Message dot value dot title. I'll do it like that. Which there's I need to probably make sure that name is file safe, but we'll come back and finish that in a minute. I just kind of want to see if I can actually get this thing file path. What are you complaining about? Forward the cancel the damn cancellation token. That's the one thing about await async in C# is like if one thing becomes async, it all becomes async, and then if one thing becomes async, it's best practice to have a cancellation token, and so then if your method takes in a cancellation token, you've got to pass that to every other asynchronous call. It's a colored function problem for sure. I think all languages though kind of have that same problem. Okay, yield output async. So let's just yield out the file path like that. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to run. Let's see. How do I... Whoops. Make this full screen. Story time. Genuinely based. Story time? What do you mean story time? Story time about what? I hear my family. Everyone's waking up for school upstairs. Okay, let's give this a run, and then I think we'll see if this works. So let's say this is the problem though. It may get stuck in a loop. That's the one thing that might happen here is we might find ourselves in a loop. So how would I stop the loop from happening? I guess I need to keep track of some sort of the writer or the... Yeah. I basically in each of the agents that can potentially cause a loop, I need to keep track of some sort of limit. So let's add that really quick. So the critic color Reace, I think is how you said that username. Thank you for your subscription. I appreciate you. It's very kind. Oh, who cares? Let's not even worry about that at the moment. Let's just get this. Let's just try to run this. But full disclosure, it's probably going to end up in a loop. Okay, so let's say .NET run. Let's just build it first. Let's make sure it builds. Okay, .NET. This is just going to be a CLI tool for now. We could try to stick a GUI on it, but for now, a CLI tool is all Steven needs. Okay, what do I want to write about? Whoops. Let's say I want to get TypeScript developers to try C#. Bro, you just said it. You might get old. Your story time about the chair. Oh, the chair. So the chair story time. Oh, you might be behind right now. You might be watching my stream behind. But the story time about the chair is the chair. So the company I used to work for. Uh-oh. That's not supposed to happen. The company I used to work for, we built a new plant. And so when we built the new plant, they basically got rid of all the old furniture in our old offices at our old manufacturing plant. And so they were like, hey, does anybody want these old trashy chairs? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take one. So that's where my chair originates from. It's not like a great story time, but it is a story. Hello, Nabib. How are you? Good to see you, man. I like your profile picture. Let's see. I want to write about why TypeScript devs should try C#. All right, well, something's wrong with my app because it's not supposed to just crap out like this after one request. Oh, there we go. Okay. Man, look at the latency, man. 15 seconds. What are the 3 main points? Let's see. C# has a familiar type system. C# has a large ecosystem. C# provides performance benefits because of compiled. Okay, so what does a 503 response mean? That's service unavailable, right? So is Gemini having issues? 503 response status code. I'm pretty sure that's service unavailable. The HTTP status code means that the server is currently unable to handle the incoming requests. Well, damn it. That might be the end of the stream if Gemini is having issues. Let's see. Gemini APIs. Do they have a status page? Partial outage. But now it says it's back up. Oh, no, that was 22nd. That was yesterday. Huh. Weird. I guess I need to add some resiliency into my request pipeline, don't I? Because if we get a 503, we should probably retry, right, with some sort of back off. I thought, did I not add a resilience handler? Let's see. Oh, I didn't. I just added HTTP client. So add standard. There's a package for this. .NET or the Microsoft team added a package to do this for you out of the box using the Poly library. I honestly don't know how. When I say things, I don't know how many of you actually use C# or in the .NET world. So when I say things like using the Poly package, I wonder how many of you actually know what the heck I'm talking about. So Poly, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Poly is a pretty popular package in the .NET ecosystem for handling retries and being able to do configure very complex request handling pipelines for dealing with, making your HTTP calls more resilient. And so Microsoft, I think it's called http.resilient. So Microsoft actually built a package around Poly that makes it a little bit easier to work with or to hook it up. It gives you a bunch of smart defaults, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think this is the one I want. You can get my totally dismantled chair if you want. It has seen the rest of his days. Sometimes when I sit on it, I worry about. No, okay. It wasn't. It does. My chair doesn't have mold. Okay, it wasn't that old and crappy of a chair. It's just a chair it's just a used chair. It's not a moldy chair. I don't need the internet going around thinking I have a moldy chair. Let's just add this package in here. Is there a yeah, there we go, versions tab. Okay. Come down here. Let's add this guy. Could it find any project? And what do you mean you can't find a? Oh, yes. There is no project. So we got .NET add, and we need to add it to. We need to add it to source. Source Casper console. There we go. Now what we can do is we can go up to our HTTP client and we can say .add standard. Why did this fail to? Detected package downgrade. Microsoft.extensions.http. What? I don't think I've ever seen. Is it because I think I'm using .NET 10. Yeah, I'm using the release. Is there not a... Well, that shouldn't matter though. .NET 10 should be able to support that version. So why did it... Oh, I wonder if I need to upgrade these. Michael, thanks for subscribing, man. I appreciate it. Super kind. Okay, let's try upgrading these packages. It looks like they published a 10. Okay, let's see if we can. Nope, I still got an error message. Still failed to restore. Unable to find a stable package with version 9.10. What? I thought they published these all at the same time. Maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, 9.0.10. 9.0.10. There we go. I promise I can read. Dot 0.10. 0.10. Now let's try. No? Okay, what the fuck is happening? Why am I having so much issues adding this package? Casper console depends on Microsoft.extensions.http resilience, but Microsoft.extensions.http.resilience was not found. What the? It's right there. What do you mean it can't find it? Oh, because this one, okay. This one is 9.10.0. Fuck. Obviously, I need more coffee. There we go. There we go. And the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can add standard resilience handler, I think is the name of it. But why is that? Resilience. Let's see, this requires a type of iClient builder. Oh, and this doesn't return that? Why doesn't this return a client builder? Oh, there's a bunch of different overloads for this thing. Let's try to find HTTP client builder. Oh, only the named? Huh. That's interesting. So only the name versions actually return a client builder. So I guess you have to use the delegate. So if I come back to the program file, I'm guessing I can do, where'd it go? So I guess I can do C dot, no, that's not what I want. I know I've used this before. I don't know why. Let's see. Microsoft HTTP resilience example. Excuse me. This only works with the, that's weird that it only works with certain overloads. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. I can add excuse me. We kind of is approaching troll territory a little bit. Like some stuff you say is kind of like you're here for like, you're here to participate, but then some of the stuff you say is a little on the edge, man. To go, Malay. So I want to ask, how did you decide that your program needs resilience in the request? Sorry for the weird question. I'm trying to pick your brain. Oh, so basically the reason why I want resilience is, so typically, right, the no more toilet manual, Steven? Okay. We're going to put this guy in the timeout. User timeout. To go, Malay, I didn't mean to ignore your question, but so basically the way I made that decision was when we were trying to test the app, we basically received a 403 response from the Gemini API, right? The internet is a strange place. When you're sending data over the wire, things can happen. You can do everything right. You can make the proper request and send all the right information, and just there's an internet between you and the service you're talking to, and so that service can be experiencing issues. Some network jump across all those wires can be experiencing an issue. So you can encounter intermittent. Thank you, Leonard, for the sub. You can encounter intermittent issues. MJ, thank you for the sub. So in this case, Gemini's API is saying, hey, 503 service is unavailable. It doesn't tell me exactly why it's unavailable, but it could just be some transient issue that they're trying to resolve. And so whenever you are making HTTP requests, you want to build your app with the assumption that requests will fail. They will fail at times. And so in your client, you need to implement some sort of resilience handling, right? And most people do this through some sort of retry approach. I think most commonly people use an exponential backoff, which basically means we will make a request, and if that request fails, we will then wait for some amount of time with usually some jitter in there, so that way things don't, if you have multiple clients, like let's say you have 5 different clients, you don't want all of them retrying at the exact same time. So usually there's a jitter, but you wait for a second and then you retry. And if the retry is successful, great. But if the retry is unsuccessful a second time, then you wait longer. And so instead of waiting a second, you might wait 3 seconds. And then the next time, if it fails, 5 seconds. And you just kind of keep giving the service that you're talking to more and more time before you make a retry. And some people will set a limit. They'll say, after 5 or 6 retries, we'll log an error and we'll figure it out later, right? Maybe there's some like with the AWS outage, right, that happened on Monday. There was probably a lot of services that had resiliency handlers that were sitting there trying to retry, right? So whenever you're making a network request like that, you want to build that in. And so instead of having to implement that logic yourself, you can use something like Poly or something like this resilience package that Microsoft made so that you can just hook it up yourself, right? So you can just say, if I put a name in here, I should be able to say add standard resilience handler. And they have some different approaches that you can use. There's different strategies you can use for retrying. But the standard resilience handler that Microsoft provides basically says, if you get status codes that are a certain number, we will retry those requests for you using some default strategy. I'm pretty sure the default strategy is a backoff of some type, an exponential backoff of some type. And I'm pretty sure that they will retry most codes that are above the 500 status code number, right? So like you don't want to retry 400s, right? Because those are bad requests. That's supposed to indicate to you as the client you've done something wrong. But you should, retry 503s, 502s, maybe even 500s, right? There might be some reason the server is having issues handling your request. So that's how I landed on. I need to add some resilience handler here. Could I have implemented it myself? Yes. But I mean, once you've implemented an exponential backoff strategy once, they all look the same. It's all the same algorithm. It's all the same logic. So might as well just use one that's already tested. And then Poly, the underlying library that Microsoft uses here, you can get all kinds of fancy with your retry strategy. You can say, only retry these status codes under these conditions after so much time. I mean, you can configure all kinds of wild approaches to it. What's up, Artwork Studios? How are you, man? Good to see you. Body hurts like hell. Yeah. Oh, it's already 7 a.m. Well, I'm sorry, Artwork Studios. You got here right as the party was ending. Sam, on the live grind, aren't you? Yeah, lately I have been. I've been live almost every morning for the last 2 weeks, thereabouts. I missed a couple days because I went to Nashville for a work trip, so I missed a couple days there. But yeah, that's the new schedule I'm trying to stick to is wake up at 4 o'clock, feet hit the ground, go downstairs, brush my teeth, run a comb through my hair, grab my cup of coffee, and then come to my desk and fire up the stream. So that's the schedule I'm trying to stick to at the moment. I see. So there are common default errors, and they indicate whether it's your fault or their fault. Exactly. Yep. That's how REST APIs should work. Not everybody follows all these standard conventions. REST APIs over HTTP, they should stick to standard conventions, right? So anything in the 200 status code should indicate success. Anything in the 400 status code typically should indicate some issue on the client's end. Anything in the 500 status codes should indicate something on the server's end. And then the specific status codes you pick to return should help inform your client about, in the case of a 400 error, that usually means you have some sort of validation. You've supplied an invalid request, so you haven't sent valid data in your request. If it's a 500 internal server error, that means it's like a generic catch-all, like something in the server issue was the problem. If you return a 503, that should mean your service is temporarily unavailable. 502 is a bad gateway, which can happen when you misconfigure proxies or reverse proxies in your because there's usually multiple network jumps in most services you're talking to. Most services you talk to, you're going to talk to one endpoint. But once your request hits that endpoint or that base domain, there's probably a lot of network jumps behind the scenes that you're not aware of. So your request gets proxied through multiple servers to finally get to the actual place where it's processed. But yeah, you should Karthik, good to see you, man. Thanks for the subscription. You should account for that. If you're sending HSP requests, you should account for internet gremlins getting in your way from time to time. What? Sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh, what I was saying is my stream normally ends at 7. So when you showed up right as we're wrapping things up. Sam, aren't you knackered? I think that's a good thing, Sam. I think what you said is a good thing. Yes, you could replay the stream. I actually saw yesterday, I didn't notice this. The Primogen, he doesn't put any of his VODs. Well, the Primogen puts his VODs on his channel, but you have to be a member to see them, which I thought was kind of interesting. I just leave all mine up. Like I stream live to YouTube and then they just end up publishing onto the channel. So you can always go back and watch the stream, even though I know it's super early in the morning for a lot of people who are in my time zone. Yeah. No worries, man. I figured it was you. Artwork. I figure most of your accounts probably have artwork in the name somewhere. All right, guys. Well, I'm happy with the progress we made today. Basically, everything's wired up. Now we're basically at a point with this app where now there's 2 things we need to do. We need to write tests for the workflow to make sure that our workflow actually routes traffic the way it's supposed to, which I need to write tests for that without talking to an LLM. I don't need to talk to an LLM to verify the workflow. So we need to write a test. We need to write some tests for that. And then we just need to do some evaluations, right? So we just need to figure out, are the prompts that we're using for the LLM giving us the results we want? But I think it's at a point now where I can start to use it day to day and see how it goes. Yeah, I pay for Primogen VODs. Sam, first of all, thanks for the super chat, man. I pay for Primogen VODs mainly for stand-up. Dude, the stand-up is hilarious. I watch all those lives. They're so funny. Those guys are... Yesterday's they had a Trash. Let's see, it was Trash, Casey, TJ, and Prime. And it was funny as hell. They were talking about the AWS outage, I think. Was that yesterday or was that the day before? Yeah, anywho, they're definitely worth it. I think he asked for I think his base membership is like $2.99 or $4.99 or something. But yeah, those videos are well worth it. All right, guys, I'm gonna go upstairs and take a shower and talk to the family and get ready for the day. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you're new here, the best place to interact with me or the folks in chat outside of the stream is our Discord. So if you go to discord.stevenfreeborn.com, that'll get you to the right place. I just put the link in the chat. As far as housekeeping things go, like I said, I usually stream. My goal almost every day is to get to the desk and start the stream at 4:15. And then on weekdays, I'll usually stream till about 7 a.m. because that's when my kids wake up. If you guys are ever curious, like, why does he do the things he does at the times he does them, it's almost always predicated around my family's schedule, because they come first and all this stuff comes second. So usually it's 4:15 a.m. to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. But on the weekends, we might go a little longer, right? So on days when we don't have to get ready for work and school and stuff, I might go, to 8 o'clock or 8:30 or something like that. So if you're around then and you want to stop in, please do. Otherwise, I will see you maybe in a short, or if I ever get around to making another video, maybe in a video. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your, Thursday? And if it's already Friday for you, because time zones are a thing, have a great rest of your Friday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Blimey, have a good day. Crazy. Yeah, I'm still fitting them in. Trying to make it work. Good to see you, Sam. Appreciate you stopping in, man. Have a good day. See you, Our Work Studios. Anybody else that's here, see you guys. Have a good day.